Hey y'all, I'm back again with a classic book tag. So somebody requested that I do a classic book tag, and so I researched it and it looked like so much fun. And I had fun just collecting all my books, finding them in all the little places that I hide all my books. And so I did add a question because I thought that it should be there. And it was, so the first one that I added was, my favorite classic of all time. And so my favorite classic of all time is actually Pride and Prejudice. What a shock. But I know it's like everyone's favorite, but I just love Jane Austen. She's literally one of the most brilliant writers. She writes it like it is going to film, which is funny because, hello, it was written in the 1800s, which they didn't have film, they didn't have anything like that. It was basically word for word, is you can put it on stage word for word. You don't need to add, edit, or anything like that. It's just such a brilliantly written book, and it gives such a depth to all the characters and how frivolous and stupid some of them were, and how brilliant other ones were, and just the change of the characters in general. An overhyped book that I actually really don't like, and I realized I actually didn't have a real copy of it because I hate it so much. So I have the Great Illustrated Classics version of Great Expectations. I passionately hate this book. It is so just like the main character makes me so angry because he's just so dumb. Like, I'm like, really? Like, why? Why did you go after this girl? She obviously doesn't want you. And then it just ends sad. And I know Charles Dickens is more of a sad author, but I was just like, this is just horrible. And it's like a great classic that everyone's supposed to read, but I'm like, I passionately hate it and never want to ever read it or touch it again. But definitely, probably it's a good thing to read once in your lifetime, and that's it. That's personally what I think. So my favorite time period to read about is actually the late 1800s, for America during the Civil War, and just the way they wrote about things. Like, for example, Red Badge of Courage, such a brilliant way to have all the colors and have just written, just the way it was all written, and just knowing more about that time period. And then for British classics, it's also the same time period because, I mean, my favorite classics like Jane Eyre, Jane Austen when she was writing Sense and Sensibility, all those time periods, those are more like in the mid 1800s, but it's still just like brilliant writing, and I just love that time period. My favorite fairy tale to actually read is Beauty and the Beast. It is literally, it was written to teach a lesson for a daughter, like a dad to his daughters, and I love the way it's written. I only have it in, of course, because it's a short story, I only have it in a older book, but I love, like, even they have the art, whenever they're doing the design work for it, it's just always brilliant, and it's such a testimony of love and finding love, and just even the people that look so awful on the inside, they still need love, and they still need just to be cared about. So my most embarrassing book that I haven't read yet is actually Wuthering Heights, which is funny because it's a Bronte and it's during my favorite time period, but I think part of it is I've definitely seen the movie versions of this, and I know I'm usually totally against seeing movies before you watch it, but it's very, very much a gothic novel, and I want to read it, and I've obviously tried, I mean, I barely got in 10 pages, 10 pages, and, but I don't know, I just haven't found the time to read it, because I don't know, I want to read it, and it's there in my library to read, but just haven't gotten to it yet. So, 5 of the top classics that I do want to read soon. Some of them are a little obscure, but I still really am interested in them. So the first one is The Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl. I think this one is super interesting because it's a classic, but it's not one that's on the norm that everybody is reading, like Uncle Tom's Cabin, all that kind of stuff. And during the same time period of the Civil War, yet again. I'm just wanting to know more, and of course it's done by this editor, and it has by the Barnes & Noble editors, and I just love the pictures that it has there, and I always grab those books without even thinking. The other one is, another one is Northanger Abbey. I've started it, I'm getting through it, it's actually brilliant. I love Jane Austen, she's so brilliant, and it's such an easy read that I'm enjoying it so much. The next one that I want to read is Sir Walter Scott's version of Ivanhoe. Definitely just a boy book that I kind of like to read boy books too. Just seeing war and just seeing the boys' perspective of stuff is kind of super interesting. So then the other one I want to read is, another one I want to read is Camilla. It's super, I know it's a sad book, but I definitely want to read it because it's such a classic, and it's such a, it sits there on my mantle. It actually sits near my desk, and I just am like, huh, I really should read that, and it just keeps grabbing me, and so that is definitely on my list to read next. And then Ben-Hur, because this is a classic that everyone should read. I've seen not the newest movie version, but the old movie version of it, and it was just so brilliant, and it's very, very long, I will admit, but it's just so brilliant, and I have read some of it before, and I think it's such a good telling of Jesus without telling about Jesus, which is super interesting to me, because I like stories that are kind of off the beaten path rather than everyone's reading the same thing. But I still love reading the same thing too, like just because I like to read the same thing. Anyway, I know I'm totally rambling, but if you watched my videos before, you know that I ramble lots and lots. So, the next question is, favorite modern TV or film adaptation of a classic. So my favorite film one is definitely Pride and Prejudice with Colin Firth and Jennifer Ehle. Just brilliant. I love Colin Firth. Anything he's in, I just will watch it and watch it and watch it. He's just such a brilliant actor. And just, I loved it because it literally was Pride and Prejudice, the book, on the movie. Like, word for word, verbatim. Nothing was taken out. Nothing was added. It was just such, like, the perfect book to movie version, and there was no changes added, and that is definitely one of my pet peeves. The other one that the movie version that I love is Sense and Sensibility, with Emma Thompson and Kate Winslet. I love Kate Winslet. She's always brilliant. Definitely, I think she's not given as much credit as she should, because she's just such a brilliant actress, as well as Emma Thompson. Both very brilliant women, and just the way that they brought Sense and Sensibility to life. I've watched several different versions of Sensibility because there's so many out there, and it is definitely like the best one out of all of them, and just one of the best movies that tells the story of Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility. The worst film adaptation or TV version, I can't think of a TV version that I really hate, but I passionately hate Pride and Prejudice with Keira Knightley and Matthew Macfadyen. I think that they took way too much out, and though, yes, granted, it's a very, very long book, they just took out details that I just wholeheartedly think you need to know about the characters, and just, it seemed kind of like la da 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 da, like, not really, like, with Elizabeth actually being smart and actually being, it just didn't emphasize that she was intelligent, and that Kitty and Lydia were super stupid. Like, it doesn't emphasize that to me, at least, and so that's why I just don't like it. So the favorite modern book based on a classic is the next question. And my favorite adaptation is The Lunar Chronicles. Seriously, one of the best series I have ever read. And if you've watched my videos, you totally know that. But I love how she takes these classic fairy tales, like Winter is based on Snow White, and I just love how she takes this basic story and just turns it on its head and makes it way more interesting than you would ever think. And then she did the same with The Stars Above. This is actually, it took like The Little Mermaid and all these different ones and wrote it into the Lunar Chronicles, and these are like standalone little separate snippets, but it's so brilliant. I love Melissa Meyer. Like, seriously, I like own every single one of her books because I love how she retells the stories of all these classic fairy tales that we grew up with. So the next question is favorite edition of classics that you like to collect. Now, I am not a big collector. I like vintage books more than I like modern books. Just my personal preference. I like the smell of older books and just the feel of older books. But I did notice that I apparently do like to collect the Barnes & Noble editions. I have quite a few of these Barnes & Noble editions, and I think I like it because it has, like, the real-life pictures. Actually, I know, that's why I always pick these up. They have real-life pictures. They're, like, of these people. Like, this is of the author. This is just, it's a great, brilliant way to, it's basically like a painting, and I super love art, and I just love the way that paintings always jump off on a canvas to you, and so I think that's why I enjoy these books so much. The last question is, favorite classic that is underhyped. I really don't know if it's technically a classic. I always put it in the classic category, but The Wind in the Willows, I know it's a child's story, and it's just brilliantly told, and I don't think it gets enough credit or brilliance, or credit or hype or anything that it really should. Like, it has a couple film adaptations, it has a couple things here and there, but it's such a good story, and just, I don't know, I seriously have watched the other ones. I've read this so many times. I've read it to children. I read it when I was growing up, and I just think it needs to be more hyped up than it is. And I think it's just character-wise, it's brilliant, and just everything-wise, it's brilliant. Well, I hope you enjoyed my ranting and raving about all these classics. If you have any suggestions for videos or books that you want to read, just let me know in the comments, and y'all have a good day.